Okay, so Lauren Melinda is the writer-director before you and founder of Simbel Productions, a nonprofit dedicated to female-driven storytelling with social impact. A mother of two, she is currently campaigning for Before You to be Oscar shortlisted, while also developing her first feature film. Tala. Tala Ashe is an Iranian-American actress, acclaimed for her role as Zari Tomaz on the CW's DC Legends of Tomorrow, a Tony Award nominee for her performance in the Broadway production of English. She is also known for her work on Smash, The Girls on the Bus, American Odyssey, and As the World Turns. More so, Tala is a founding member of Shithority, an initiative supporting women in the entertainment industry. Caren Spruch is the National Director of Arts Entertainment Engagement at Planned Parenthood, pioneering programs that advance sexual and reproductive health and rights through the arts. She collaborates with film and TV creative actors, musicians, and other artists to amplify the organization's mission. Thank you, everybody, for coming. So I'll have a couple of questions, and then you guys can ask questions if you have any. Lauren, what led you to make this film?
Well, this is based off of my own experience with abortion. Between having my two girls, my husband and I experienced a pregnancy that was not able to come to terms, and we were very fortunate to be able to get pregnant again and had my second daughter. But after having my daughter, I started to have a lot of memories and just feelings around the abortion that I had had just 6 months prior to getting pregnant again. And it was interesting to me how I was holding these two emotions at the same time, one of which was incredible happiness and love for the child that I was holding, and then this immense amount of pain and sadness about the loss that we had experienced. And so I started working on a script, really thinking about how memory lives in our bodies and how we experience kind of trauma through memory. And that was then written into the script. Like, each transition was specifically written. We built out all of the sets. Tala, poor thing, was pulled through the couch multiple times.
About that.
Yeah, so everything was done practically. It was very important to me that it was, stayed true to kind of my emotional experience. And so that non-linear approach it felt very, very honest and truthful to the experience that I was having.
Yeah, it feels that way for sure. Tala, what drew you to the role?
Lauren and I started talking about it years in advance, and I was just really interested in how memory and how grief lives in our bodies and how it kind of distorts the world. And she had this very surrealist approach that I think comes from your background as a visual artist, and I was very fascinated by that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need a lot more stories about women's health. So
yeah,
I was happy to be part of that.
It's really impressive how you really do embody those emotions. Like, you're not doing a lot, you're kind of just feeling it, and we really get that feeling in those moments through your performance.
Thank you.
Lauren and Tala, how did the two of you work together to make this happen? What was your collaboration like?
I made sure to torture my husband.
Well, we had a lot of conversations. You worked with a wonderful Alexander teacher named Jean-Louis Rodrigue, who I also had a couple sessions with, and I had done Alexander technique in the past, so it was an interesting lens to look at the work through.
Can you say more about what that means, the Alexander technique?
Sure. It's very much about being in touch with one's body. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of breath work, a lot of just connection. I think something that Tala and I did with Jean-Louis was we did this a process called the 5 rhythms, which is based on 5 different songs that he then plays. So we're kind kind of experiencing this nonverbal kind of, how would you, it's very physical.
I think it's a way of relating to each other physically, which, I mean, there isn't a lot of language in this, and I think that was helpful, like both for the storytelling and for you and I to connect and trust each other in the process.
That was very important
that
to
comes
me,
through.
that Tala would trust me, and I think for you too, you were very honest about, you know, because it was something that my own story that I was sharing with you. I think that that process of the 5 rhythms allowed us to just connect on a level that sitting and having conversations won't do.
Yeah, for sure.
Caren,
Yes.
you've built bridges between entertainment and advocacy through Planned Parenthood and the Arts and Entertainment Engagement Program. Can you walk us through what that looks like and how you decide which projects to get involved with and how you came about to get involved with this one?
Yes, so I work with all kinds of artists to get them to use their art to speak out publicly to help us normalize sexual and reproductive health and rights. And I particularly love working with TV and film creatives. And I do that in a whole variety of ways. Sometimes it's at the very beginning or even before. Like, I've met with filmmakers and talked to them about what's happening in this world. And films have come out of that, for example, like Trapped, which is a documentary about the lack of reproductive health providers in the South. Sometimes I get a script early on and work to make sure the language is sensitive, that the medical information is accurate or the legislative information is accurate. And that can involve providing, you know, facts, consulting with the doctors, nurses, sex educators at Planned Parenthood. Sometimes I'm providing materials for the set or costume. Sometimes, if it makes sense, I try to work with a filmmaker to film their scene at a Planned Parenthood. So it's really a whole bunch of ways, but the goal is to get more stories out there that normalize sexual and reproductive health and rights, because right now our reproductive freedom is under attack like never before. Abortion is banned or restricted in 19 states, but because Planned Parenthood and abortion are so popular, now the administration is trying to defund us as a way of, sort of a backdoor way of banning abortion. So it's critical that we see stories like this, because unless we change the culture, we'll never be able to affect any long-term policy change. So Lauren and I were introduced by an impact producer, and right away I loved Lauren because she really cared about what she was doing and wanted it to have an impact. And for me, I'm working to find stories that are accurate and sensitive, number one, and especially stories that we haven't seen before. So this was a very important story. It was based on Lauren's own story. I've worked on hundreds of films at this point, and over many years, and at the beginning it was a major success to have a character have an abortion and go on to lead their best life. But in most cases, they were able to ultimately have the abortion. They were generally young, white, single. So all that we'd seen, I hadn't really seen, and I've been pushing, and it's been better, but Lauren's film had that. It was a married couple who wanted to have a child and decided to have an abortion because that was the best decision for her and for her family. And it showed we need to see more people on screen of different races, of different income levels, of different ethnicities. And we see that in this film. And we see a very supportive husband in the film as well. So those were just some of the issues that drew me to working with Lauren.
That's really a unique story in a lot of ways, and you know, as you said, it comes from your personal experience. And how did you kind of balance the specificness of your experience with kind of telling this story that is actually universal and also a topic that people have very strong feelings about.
So in making the film, I didn't set out to make a political film. I set out to make a very human film and to really humanize an experience that is so often politicized. And what I've learned with this film is that kind of the more specific I could be, the more universal it became. And it was really about being truthful, and so that others could see their own stories reflected back, or just, I think there have been so many amazing experiences at festivals where people have come up afterwards and shared their stories and felt that there was a opportunity to break the silence that they had been carrying for so long, that there is a path to destigmatizing this abortion and the conversations around abortion. So I think it's very tricky in this landscape, but I think my goal is really to be truthful and create community and hopefully lift the silence that so many people carry with them.
Tala, I know you said that a lot of this performance was rooted in the Alexander technique and feeling the emotions in your body. And I was wondering if inhabiting this role was transformative for you at all, or kind of opened any understanding into the subject or experience.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wanted to honor Lauren's story, but I've also had experiences that have been very negative in surrounding female health and reproductive health, and I've had friends who have had terminations for medical reasons. So I had that background, but I also have witnessed the kind of invisible grief that comes with that, and that there's not a lot of room in our society to talk about these things and to express them. In a way, it was I don't know about transformative, but it was in some ways maybe healing for me to go through embodying that grief and knowing that it's actually not invisible, it's not private, it will be seen by people.
Yeah, I mean, I think healing is a kind of transformation, like making incredible art from pain. Caren, I think you kind of said, you already kind of answered this question, which is just how do you guys get involved, and how was your experience working with the film? Did you have input in the process as it went along?
Lauren had mostly made her picture already, but we talked a lot about the language that she used to talk about the picture, and she was very open to discussion, and because it was Lauren's story, there was just so much I could do, but she was very open, and we talked about, does the word choice make sense? That's the word most people use, but really most people don't have a choice, and they never had a choice. It's decisions some people are fortunate enough to be able to make about their own health care. We talked about
the log line a lot, right? The log line was something that was constantly changing based on the situation. So I think you were so helpful with kind of helping to guide us with the right terminology and language around the film.
Great. And we still talk about it because your rights are changing every single day. And the way you talk about an issue is very important. So, for example, also anti-choice, and we say pro-abortion rights because that's what you are. You're pro the right of someone to make a decision about their own life, their own body, and their own future. And I think these stories are just so important because when you see a character who you feel you've come to know in a film or television, you can identify with them. And it sort of personalizes the story and it sparks conversation. And I think that's really the way that there will be a change. is to have more and more films. And every person's story is unique, and every person's story is valid. And why they made the decision doesn't matter. It's that they were able to make the decision that they felt that was best for them.
Lauren, how did working on this movie change the way you think about balancing being an artist with being an advocate?
Yeah, I think it really makes me think a lot about how advocacy and storytelling don't have to exist in separate lanes. They can, that there's more power in bringing these two, in art and advocacy together. And yeah, I think it's a lot of it, again, is that like truth telling can be such an act of advocacy, you know, and so yeah, I think just staying true to that is really kind of how I see my path moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of leads us to our last question before we open it up, which is kind of for all of you, what does empathy on screen mean to you, and what kind of stories do you think need telling in the coming times?
I mean, I can say that we need more stories like Lauren, just more stories that normalize abortion because it's healthcare. And right now, with what's happening, we need more stories to depict what is involved now, what it means to when lawmakers are controlling your life and your own decisions, what it means if you have to travel to another state to get the care you need, to find the money to do it, to pay for, you know, the gas, to pay for a babysitter, a hotel, to tell your job where you are for a few days. We really need to put lawmakers and others in the shoes of real people who are living. This is now their real lived experiences, so that they can understand and empathize and see what it really means, what the impact of these horrific bans and restrictions are.
I always joke that I'm an eternal underdog supporter, and I think we're experiencing a real empathy deficit in our world at this moment, and there are so many really horrifying things happening all around the world, and I think that it is our job as artists to put a name, to put a face, to put a story to these things, so that it's not just a statistic, you know, all these things that we know, and that's very important for me. I don't think they have to be two lanes at all. I think like with a platform comes the responsibility. So I try to always speak up for those who are not being spoken up for.
I think for me, I truly believe that all stories need to be told. You know, that there's so much opportunity to be able to use storytelling to make change. And sometimes I say I, you know, have my head in the clouds potentially, but that's okay. You know, I'm finding other beautiful people who also kind of have their heads in the clouds, and we can all make change together. And then, you know, with my production company, with Simbel Productions, we're really working hard to support other female filmmakers with really nuanced and honest storytelling, and making sure that we create strong impact campaigns like early on in the life of a film, so that it really becomes a conversation around the film and isn't just something that's thought of once the film's, you know, festival life has ended. And so how do we kind of think outside the box and create community and hopefully make cultural change, you know, just again, bringing stories to life that have the power to educate and to hopefully create conversation. I think that's the most, to bring compassion and empathy and conversation to a subject or is the most important thing.
Yeah, and then hopefully from that change. So if anybody has any questions, here. Yeah.
Okay, hi. Beautiful film.
Thank you.
Really beautiful work, all of you. I just was very moved by it. And my question, because I'm I have a film in the festival as well that has an impact theme. What, you touched on this at the very end. What are some of the ways you are getting it out to audiences? Because that, right now, we're in a situation where distribution is one of the hardest things to do for independent films. And so I would love to hear what some of the things you're doing along the lines of getting impact and creating community.
Sure, absolutely. So we've actually been very fortunate to play a lot of states where there are severe bans, restrictions on abortion. So we played in Idaho and Oklahoma and Alabama and another handful of states. And I've been working with my team to bring in Planned Parenthood representatives and other organizations that are on the ground trying to make change. And so we've been doing kind of panels at the festivals kind of around that reproductive rights conversation. We are doing an Oscar campaign right now because regardless of what happens, I think it's just getting eyes on the film and bringing, again, just more conversation around the subject. And then hopefully, we're looking at, the New Yorker, CNN Film, seeing if there are some distribution options for the film that will allow us to have a broader conversation instead of it just being about let's get the film out there onto some platform. It's like, what platform are we getting the film onto? And then we're also going to do a lot of screenings, hopefully with some other films at universities, just to, again, continue the conversation, reach younger audiences. So it's kind of diversifying and trying to figure out kind of what hits. Because everything is constant, this industry, everything's in flux, right? So it's always shifting. So we're trying to, shift with it and the Oscar route is one way, the university route is another, but hopefully, again, just bringing the conversation to different audiences.
Great.
Any other questions? Oh, okay.
Thank you guys for such a thoughtful conversation. That was awesome. This is really broad, but I just wanted to give you all a chance to plug yourselves. Like, where can we find you? What is next? If you have any fun, exciting, upcoming projects you'd like to talk about. But yeah, thank you guys.
Okay. We're actually excited to be playing the film in Texas on the 19th. So that's another important state to have the film in Dallas, so to have the film be played. And then again, the Oscar campaign, and you can find, we have many Instagram handles. So Before You the Film, Lauren Melinda Film, I think is mine, right? And then Simbel Productions. But please, we have a newsletter that goes out that kind of talks about the other films that we're involved in through Simbel. We have 4 films right now this year that we've gotten involved, feature films that we've gotten involved in, and then Before You. So hopefully you guys will, be interested in following us.
I really don't have anything to plug. Just pass it on to
She's
you.
great. I work
Anything
with
Tala
Parenthood's
touches is
national
good.
office, so I have a lot going on. Fortunately, I have many other scripts to work on right now. People really are writing the stories I've long asked them to write. It's a question of whether they'll see distribution now, but some are. I work with lots of actors, so I've got a lot of people I'm asking to speak out at different moments in time. I have several big screening events coming up.
You are a pin giver to everybody you see.
I am a pin giver. This is our campaign is I am for Planned Parenthood because of the defund. So yes, this is the red carpet pin that fastens with a magnet, and Catherine Hahn wore it on her bag to the Emmy Awards, and so did Julianne Nicholson on her dress. So it's sort of just getting, we know the public supports us. The vast majority of people want abortion to be safe and legal. So it's just a question of keeping people interested through these hard times and educated and mobilized. And so for me, I do that through the arts, because I think it's a great way to reach people where they are, whether it's in their home watching TV, at a movie theater. We go on tour with lots of rock bands. So that's another place that, as a concert goes across, like this year we did Maggie Rogers, Gracie Abrams, Cyndi Lauper. We're starting another one next week. As a band moves across the country, we work for the local Planned Parenthood to be there to talk to concert goers about the services available in their community and to get them involved. So there's never a dull moment in the fight for reproductive freedom.
Are there any other questions or? Okay, thank you guys so much. Thank you.